Afternoon, folks. Welcome back to The View for this week's podcast. A little bit earlier than we said, but I wanted to grab this man and have a proper chat with him. So we've gone a little bit earlier. So your lunchtime, I suppose, conversations today to have a look at the fixture list, which has just come out. Just a quick reminder as well. I'm going to keep plugging this on the live streams more so than the daily videos. But the Leeds Creator Cup is only a couple of weeks away now, 30 odd days away at the John Charles Centre for Sport in Leeds. The tickets for that are available down below. The details are there if you want to get them. £7 for adults, £3 for kids. All proceeds go to Prostate Cancer UK to help a very worthwhile charity that I'm a very big proponent of myself, because my father passed away from prostate cancer. So anything we can do to raise money. If you can't come and you want to just donate, you can still click on that link, and there's a donation button there as well that you can click to donate as well. And again, every penny counts towards this really, really good charity that helps a lot of men. It's the largest cancer that men will get. It's, I suppose, the equivalent in women would be breast cancer. The equivalent for men is prostate cancer in terms of the volume. So it's a very, very curable, very manageable one if it's caught early. So the more funds that they have around awareness, the better it is for them. So yeah, you can check all that detail out down below. And Andrew Stats Dalton's joined me on his lunch break to say hello to everybody. And Stats will be back with us this year for the match day previews. We've confirmed all of that. We've got some bits and pieces in. We're working on some stuff, so we're a little bit excited about what's coming in the next couple of weeks as well. But Stats, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I think it's been possibly a long off season, hasn't it, so far? That they finished the league on May the 3rd. It's June the 18th, 19th now, and we're 60 days away before that opening day of the season game against Everton. So yeah, still obviously a lot of transfers I think will go on between now and that first game of the season on a Monday night. But yeah, the countdown kind of starts. We've got the fixtures yesterday at 9 o'clock, and which we'll talk about very shortly. But we've got 3 pre-season friendlies, I think, fixed up at the moment. We go to Stockholm, I think, in mid-July, and then we've got the Villarreal, I think it is, and then of course the big game in Dublin against AC Milan. So yeah, very much looking forward to it. I know we'll all hot up with all transfer rumours and what have you between now and then, but it's nice to enjoy a stress-free football weekend. But I'm sure that will go away in 6 or 7 weeks' time.
If you want stress-free, don't make videos every day on YouTube. They'll get you. That'll remove a lot of stress from you. People get very annoyed just for talking about stuff. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. It has felt like a much longer off season because of the fact that we didn't, I suppose, have the playoffs this year, which is meant the players get a much needed longer break this year. You were saying players are due back in around the 7th of July, was that?
Yeah, right? I think reading Isaac Johnson's report in Leeds Live that the players are due back on July the 7th. And then before you know it, they go to Stockholm. I think they've got a training camp in Germany. Is that correct? If I've read that somewhere. So, and it all start to hot up, and it's exciting. It's daunting, as I'm sure we'll talk about the fixtures very shortly. Yeah. But yeah, we've said it, haven't we? This is why you want to be in the Premier League to test yourselves against the best teams in the world, or in the league, should I say? And yeah, we're gonna have to give it a damn good go. And I think that the fixtures have kind of been kind to us a little bit, but we have got a whole run in November, December. But let's get there first.
What are your thoughts? Because I want to get your thoughts on what we've done so far. I know it's very early in the transfer window. It's only open 3 days, and Leeds have already brought in one confirmed signing in Nemecha, and one that looks like it's going to be announced any minute, hour now, in terms of Jakob, which again, according to everything that's been out there, and again, sources from Fabrizio Romano have confirmed today that paperwork is signed, medical is done. They're just finalizing the last few bits and pieces. Interesting to see if Leeds will launch him with a new jersey and wait a couple of days for that to come out, or will they just go ahead and launch him now? So we'll keep an eye on that one. But yeah, it's two ones in already. Very busy according to all sources around the place. Leeds are very, very active. However, a bid rejected for Rodrigo Muniz, rumored to be 26 million plus 6 million. So 32 million pounds, a lot of money. What are your thoughts on what Leeds are doing so far? And it seems to be Stats a lot more physicality being brought in this summer.
Yeah, I think if you look back to the 22-23 campaign with the transfers that we brought in, and this is no disrespect to the players we brought in, but like to Luis Sinisterra didn't really work out. Tyler Adams didn't quite work out. Matt Rocker didn't really work out. And they were kind of from the same ballpark, weren't they? We had Vic George as director of football. I think they're taking a very different approach this year. I think Adam Underwood is doing all the data with his team as well as director of football. And I think some of the names that they're being linked with is fantastic. And I think if we can get Munoz Carvalho over the line, it'll be an unbelievable signing for 30 million. Yes, I know people saying you have to pay inflated prices, but unfortunately, these days, we're not talking about 1992 anymore. We're in 2024, 25, 26 season, should I say, and you are going to have to pay to get players in. But I think Belodge looks a brilliant defender, and it'll be interesting to see how Daniel Farker sort of integrates him into the team. It sounded like Nemeth will be coming as a squad player, and obviously still out for another number 9. They're looking at number 10 by the sounds of things. So, yeah, I think it will start to hot up over the next few weeks, and I think the board know, I think Daniel Farker knows that they do need reinforcements, because this league is the toughest league in Europe, potentially, to try and stay up. We saw what happened with Ipswich, Southampton, Leicester City last season, and the same 3 the season before that came up and went straight back down. I think Burnley and Luton were 2 of them. So, yeah, they know how hard the physicality of this league is going to be. And they're making all the right noises, and I think we'll have a better idea come August the 18th when we kick off against Everton.
The Luton manager, wasn't it? Or was it Southampton manager? Name has escaped me. When they were in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Rob Edwards.
Or Edwards, yeah.
Or Russell Martin, one of the 2 of them.
Yeah.
They were asked if they could change one thing about their time in the Premier League, what would that be? And they said, bought more physical players.
Yeah.
So Leeds seem to be adding height. Yacoub all 6'3", Nemeth is 6'1". Other players they've been linked at. I know Christoph has been poo-pooed by Joe Donoghue in the Yorkshire Post. The Marzio have come out again since then and said there is interest. They did say yesterday advanced negotiations, then changed it to advanced interest, whatever that means. But again, he's over 6 foot tall as well. And the players that are being linked with Leeds seem to be in that bigger, more bulky bracket. I mean, the lads are saying here in the chat, Douglas Luiz seems a very aspirational player to get in, and probably very unlikely to bring him in. But again, a player who doesn't mind throwing himself into a tackle and can be very physical. So there is definitely a mold of player they're looking at down the middle of that team. The edges of that, pretty light, pretty small players, speedy players. So you're relying on them to kind of maybe cover the ground for the bigger lads. But it was badly overdue. Stats was more physicality in this team. Yeah,
and as I said, I think if you look back a couple of years, that's something we kind of lacked when we went down from the Premier League last time. I know they bought in Weston McKennie. Now, unfortunately, that move didn't kind of work out for him. And the midfield that we had back in the 22-23 season was probably very lightweight. And you saw some of the hammerings we were getting, especially the 6-1 defeat to Crystal Palace, where it just went, or 5-1, whatever it was, just went completely wrong. Then obviously you lose 6-0 to Liverpool or 6-1 to Liverpool, 4-1 at Bournemouth. And the midfield was probably very passive and probably quite weak 2.5 years ago. But it's a different Leeds United now. It's a different board of directors, different director of footballing, and they are going for that physical kind of player, because I think that's what you need to try and step in the Premier League. Look, it might not work. We don't know. The proof will always be in the pudding come May 2026. But I think you've got to be in it to win it. And I think the players, certainly the calibre of players that we're being linked with at the moment, Jerry, is very interesting and very entertaining.
Yeah, it's definitely a step up from what was brought in the last time. Again, you talked about Adams and Mark Rocky. You talk about a midfield pair that's small and slight, and both of them. Adams good in the tackle, and that should be said. I'm not going to have a go at Tyler Adams. He's good in the tackle, but the injury history was a problem there as well. But yeah, they seem to bring in much more sturdier players. I'm happy with the names that have been linked. We'll see if they come in. And then again, the same thing we said this time last year. You then got to give them time to bed in and get used to playing for Leeds United, used to wearing that white shirt, because it's a heavy shirt and it doesn't fit everybody particularly well. We've seen players like Robin Koch really struggle at Leeds and then go off to play in Germany and finish third in the Bundesliga and be one of their best players of the season. So it doesn't always fit every single player. So you've got to give them time. And as has been said, the first 10 games will be interesting. So let's have a chat about those games then. Let's have a little look at
let's have a look at the fixtures.
It got very real when this came out, didn't it? All of a sudden we're like, yeah, we're back in the Premier League.
But if you like your omens, If you go back to 1973-1974 season, our first two fixtures of that year, we beat Everton 3-1 and beat Arsenal 2-0 and won the First Division. I'm not going to say we're going to win the Premier League.
We're going to win it all.
I can't remember. We played third actually. We won the first 7 that year. And I think Wolves were in there somewhere along the lines, and I think we might have played Tottenham in the first 7 back in 73-4. So look. You look at that and it's starting to come very, very real. Now, we've got a very good record at home to Everton, certainly with fans in the ground. I know we lost in COVID in 2021, but other than that and the defeat in 0-2-3, we haven't lost too many at home to Everton down the years. And I think, obviously, we played them at home when they played the 73-4 season and played them at home on the opening of the 2000-2001 season. And also play them away on the opening day of the 1991 season. We just came back up from the old second division. So you're probably targeting that as a potential 3 points. Look, David Moyes is an exceptionally good manager. He just fixed Everton. And sometimes managers go away. Obviously, Moyes went to Manchester United, had 8 months at Old Trafford, didn't kind of work out. And then had time away, went to Sunderland, didn't kind of work out. And then at West Ham, I thought was very harshly treated. West Ham won the Conference League. And then went across to Everton, back to his old club, which I thought he'd done an absolutely remarkable job. So I think that'd be a tough start. And also then you go to the Emirates, which they're not the games. If you're a newly promoted side, they're not the games that you kind of might think I'm going to get 3 points. So look, if we do, it'll be absolutely fantastic. But Arsenal will be smarting from sort of the back end of last season. Didn't really run Liverpool close at all, did they, last season? No. In all honesty, and Mikel Arteta will be getting his hands on the Premier League trophy next season. And then we go to a club that, for me, Eddie Howe's an absolutely phenomenal job. Won the League Cup last season, back in Europe in the Europa League back in the Champions League next season. So yeah, it's a tough start. And then you kind of go into September, you've got back-to-back away games against Fulham and Wolves, where you're looking at hopefully picking up some points, but none of these games are going to be easy. Marco Silva's done a phenomenally good job at Fulham. He's a very, very highly rated manager for me, Marco Silva. And then Wolves, for me, they're a little bit of chaos at the moment. They've lost 8-0 to Manchester City. Courtney's also gone to Manchester United. I know they're looking at bringing players in, but again, got a very good manager, Vita Pereira. And then the return of Tyler Adams and Luis Sinisterra. I don't know if they'll be fit. I think Sinisterra's been out injured for God knows how long.
I get that
kind of reaction. Yeah, absolutely. They get under Andrew Iraola, who's done a remarkable job as well down at the Fitness First Vitality Stadium. So yeah, there's tough. Look, every game in this league's tough, but if you come out of that 6 games with 3 wins, I think you've done very well. And then you kind of take it in blocks of games, don't you? 3 games, win 3, win 3, win 3. And you possibly need to win, 10, 11 games to stay in the Premier League? I know looking at the start of last season was terrible with Ipswich, Southampton and
but not above them. And that's a key thing. There's a lot of people are focusing on the points the bottom 3 got, saying, well, 28, 29 points could keep you up, but it won't, because the teams above them in those 2 positions were on 36 and 37 points. So you still need to aim for that 40-point mark to guarantee yourself some safety. Before we get into the ins and outs of this, I'm curious to think, who do you think will struggle this year? What are the teams outside of the obvious 3, which would be Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland, the 3 promoted sides, based on the last 2 years? They've all gone back down. So based on that, we will be in that relegation bracket of teams. Who do you think falls into that bracket with Leeds and those 3?
I think looking at it, the danger teams for me this season are West Ham. Graham Potter had a very tough start as manager at London Stadium. And he could be in for a bit of a rude awakening next season. Again, Somerville went there, didn't really do too much. I know he's been injured a little bit as well. So West Ham potentially. And Wolves are another one that I think could struggle next season. Again, because they are losing players, but in Vita Pereira, they've got a very good manager. And that's the thing. You've got to be looking to finish above one more team, because I no disrespect to Sunderland and no disrespect to Burnley, but I do think they will struggle next season. Look, we might struggle coming up again, but I think we've got a better chance of staying up out of the 3. But I think they're the possible 2. They'll be 19th and 20th. Brentford, if Keith Andrews does go in there, replacing Thomas Frank, could be another one.
Anybody who goes in their place, their first time ever without Thomas Frank in the Premier League would be very.
Yeah,
and players are going as well.
Yeah, he's done a brilliant job. As much as I know he had his little bit of banter with the Leeds fans the year Leeds went up in 2020, he's done a remarkable job at the GTEC. Man United, I'll be honest, look, I know we had this massive rivalry with Man United. I know we all laughed at them last season. They can't be as bad next year. If they are, I think the manager, then Ruben Amorim does get the sack. Yeah. Tottenham, I think under Thomas Frank has got a very, very, very good appointment for me at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And there's not much others, is there? I think Brighton under Hertzler, great manager, done a really, really good job. Palace again won the FA Cup last season in Europa League, we think. Next season, Glasner. So, yeah, the ones for me potentially are West Ham and Wolves. It's going to be tough, but if Leeds finish 17th in the Premier League year, that's job done. You stay up that first season, you can then build from there on in, and then keep backing and backing. But that first
the PSR bracket grows as well every year. You're there as well.
Of course it does. Just looking at those fixtures, December looks horrendous. If I'm being really honest, I don't know what Chelsea will turn up. Obviously, they're in the Champions League as well. Liverpool, the champions, obviously. GTEC, Leeds have got good memories of the GTEC when they won the last day of the season, 2022. Palace and Dover Glasgow just before Christmas. No Boxing Day fixture, so I don't know what we're all going to do on Boxing Day. This time round, I think we're all going to have to talk to the family. And
27th now, isn't it?
We go to Anfield for that last game of 2025 before, and it's a shame that January the 3rd, because that'll be moved. The narrative is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
It shouldn't be moved, to be honest with you, but because it's a wonderful narrative, and it's what 26? That can't be 26 years. 16 years. Jesus. 16
I remember
years.
exactly where I was for that game as well.
Since that famous day at Old Trafford. So, if anyone's watching this from Sky or from TNT, please don't move that game because it's got a wonderful narrative. But
if the TV companies want to tell a story and have a video package or something, then leave it exactly where it is, because it writes itself. Stats. The Club World Cup has gone on at the moment as well. You've got Chelsea and you've got Man City both involved in that. You've already said about Chelsea having Champions League football as well, as will Man City. Do you think that'll have an impact on them coming into this season as well? Because it's not like they've gone away and are playing a couple of preseason friendlies in the tournament. They're playing a competitive tournament.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because literally they've had a break, of 2 weeks, and they've then flown out to America for the Club World Cup. And then they're going to have 2 weeks. So for the Club World Cup, for these two sides, if they do go through, I know City won, I think, did City win yesterday? I think they did.
I think they were drawn the last time I saw it.
I know Chelsea won. So this is how much I'm paying attention to the Club World Cup.
Exactly.
But if they get through to the latter stages, it's going to go on a bit longer, isn't it, for them?
It is,
and then before you know, they're not going to get much of a break. It
could run up to 3 weeks before the start of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't think they're involved in the European Super Cup, because that'll be Tottenham versus Paris Saint-Germain. So that's one they're not involved in. They're not going to be involved in the Charity Shield. That'll be amazingly Liverpool versus Crystal Palace in the FA Charity Shield. And these two sides will probably need the time off. And you've also got to remember, these players were involved in internationals just before the Club World Cup. So I think one positive for me is, and this is providing Crystal Palace get into the Europa League, you're going to have 9 teams in Europe in the English Premier League next season. And that could play an effect with how the managers sort of rotate the squads, and that could help Leeds potentially. Like looking at the fixtures, I don't know when the European games are, but potentially Forest could get moved to a Sunday, providing that they get through the qualifiers. Chelsea, again, depending through the qualifiers. So, I think it's going to be an intriguing season. I think out of the 3, Leeds, Burnley, and someone that have come up, I think Leeds are the best equipped to stay in the Premier. Look, I might have egg all over my face come up May the 24th next year. But if you like your Omens, last time we finished the league season in the Premier League in London, we stayed up on our skin of our teeth by beating Brentford on that famous day at the GTEC. So, and ironically, here was the last home game that season, Brighton. But I'm hoping to God it's less stressful than as it was sort of back in the last season, 24-25. But you've got to grasp these opportunities. We want to be in the Premier League. We want to be a top 6 club in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is the first step in the right direction, and it's going to be exciting. I think the fans will get behind them against Everton on the 18th of August, and yeah, it's a game I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah, looking through the fixtures there, I think there's any time that you want to play someone like Arsenal and Newcastle first couple of weeks, whilst people are still, gelling and betting in, it's probably a good time to catch them off guard. But then you do look at that last game in November and that full block of December. You've got Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool back to back, but you also have Liverpool twice in December as well, which is going to be very, very tricky. West Ham, probably not the greatest place to possibly go at the end of the season. You could be in a relegation fight with them at that point. So you'd like to have your business done before that point.
Yes.
But these blocks are very interesting to keep an eye on. But I suppose coming into that block in December, it might leave Leeds in an unusual situation where we'll know if we need to do business in January or not, because that will give us a very clear indication where we are. Of those first couple of games, I don't do must wins and must loses, especially not at this stage. No one knows what the squad even looks like at this point, so no point in getting into that. But of those first, say, 5 games, up as far as Bournemouth, before Bournemouth, how many points do you think Leeds are realistically looking at picking up in there? And what's the ideal versus what's the realistic number?
It's hard, isn't it? I think just the momentum they've got against Everton, I think will take them home against Everton. As I said, everyone's an exceptional manager, but I just think the whole city will be a buzz that Monday night. I think they'll get a point against Newcastle, and I think they'll beat Wolves away. They've got a decent record at Wolves. I think certainly in the Premier League in the last 2 seasons, they came up from 2 down in 21-22 and won that 3-2 and then won 4-2 the following year. I'm going to stick my neck on the line here and say 7 points from the first 5.
Okay, 6 or 7. Yeah, a lot of people in that. Matt's saying 7, Stuart saying 6, 7. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Do you need to rush off now, or have you got a couple of more minutes?
I've got a couple more minutes, yeah. Still got a few more minutes.
I'll stay on after you go as well, and I'll kind of go through any questions people have. There's a couple of questions coming in. If you have posted a question in the chat, I'll cover them off before we wrap up when Stats heads off. I was going to talk about the Jermaine Beckford derby.
Yes.
The 3rd of January with the story that goes behind that as well. But
yes.
Looking at the teams that are in around that mix, you mentioned Wolves already, and you mentioned Brentford. And my own little take on that as well. I think it's a really challenging period for Brentford. It has been said in the chat that Leeds are miles off Brentford, and I would have agreed with that. Absolutely would have agreed with that. But Weiss is going to go, and Waymo's going to go.
Yeah.
Flecken is already gone.
Yes.
Frank is gone. I mean, they are losing a lot of the players that have made them an established Premier League side, who are heading off to clubs that they'd be battling with, I suppose, a little bit. If Manchester United and Spurs finished below Brentford last year, and now they're taking their players, they're going to then compete with them and potentially push them down. And you're not always guaranteed that a new manager will keep you where you were.
Absolutely,
and a lot of times a change can be a bad thing as well as a good thing. And then you look at Everton, and the one with Everton that sticks in my head is not David Moyes. I think he's a fantastic manager. They're a different side since he's taken them over from Sean Dyche. Their final league position showed that compared to where they had been for the bulk of the year. But going into a brand new stadium, we've seen the likes of Arsenal and that struggle. We've seen teams get brand new stadiums and be relegated the following year. The atmosphere is not the same. It's a different ground. They don't have that familiarity with it. Have any thoughts on those 2 bits?
I think Brentford's a really, really interesting one because they went up the year after in 2021 and never really been in any danger of being relegated. Now you take the Thomas Frank factor into that. I think he's done a wonderful job at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Obviously now he's gone to Tottenham to replace Ange Postecoglou, and it'd be very interesting to see what direction they've got that they go in. After do go for Keith Andrews, he's not got any experience in managing in the Premier League. Look, he might do a very, very good job, but I think it's a risk. And I think you're right. You said Visser is going to go, and Buemo's going to go. You say Flecken's going to go as well.
Gone.
He's gone already. That they could struggle. They have got a very good team working behind the scenes at Brentford with the recruitment side of things, but it's the unknown. It's a bit of a step into unknown for Brentford this year. It's the first time in 5 seasons they're going to a new season without Thomas Frank, and it'll be very intriguing to see how that may occur. As for Everton going into I need to get this name right, the Hill Dickinson Stadium. I think that's something on those lines. You're leaving a lot of memories behind at Goodison Park. Goodison Park was a very tight-knit stadium. The fans are always on top of you. Yep. Leeds had a horrendous record at Goodison Park. They won since being in the Premier League. They only ever won once in the Premier League, and that was when Rafinha scored in front of an empty stadium. So that might play into Leeds' hands. I know that game's not till January next year. Might struggle, as I said. I think David Moyes is a very, very good manager, and I'm sure the experience that they've got with Moyes is Moyes was manager at West Ham when they're in the London Stadium. So look, I know he wasn't when they first moved there, because I think he was at Sunderland when they first moved there back in 2015-2016 season. So yeah, Everton. I don't know with Everton. I think they've still got some very good players. They've got a very nucleus of a very good squad. Of course, they've got a very good manager. But I certainly do agree with you on the Brentford perspective that it is a step into the unknown, and it depends where they go with the direction. Because if it doesn't work out, say for example, they do go for Keith Andrews, and it doesn't work out, he could be gone within 3 months. Say for example, because it's now with the be all and end all staying in the Premier League.
It's 100% that they need to progress next year. They spent a lot of money on this stadium as well, and new owners will want things quickly, so they won't hang around either. Interesting question from Clive. I say even because he's in Hong Kong, or is it really early morning? It's one or the other, Clive. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is. Clive is asking, what's the manager favorite for the chop? Personally, I think it's Amarin.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I don't think there's any pressure on Scott Parker and Reggie Librate coming up because of the expectations. Look, there'll be pressure on Daniel Farke because it's the nature of the beast. If Leeds get off to a bad start after 10 games, the questions will be asked of the manager's ability, because that is just the nature of the world that we live in. But I think for me, yeah, it's hard to kind of point away from Amarin for the disaster that they had last season to lose the Europa League final, and the manner that they did lose to Tottenham and to where they finished in the Premier League, finishing 14th in the end. 14th in the end. Manchester United, I think they won the last game of the season. I think Amarin will be under an immense amount of pressure. If they get off to a really, really bad start, he'll be gone. But again, it's cycles, isn't it? You keep sacking managers, you then pay managers off. And obviously, I know Man United's looking to move into a new purpose-built stadium. I have to admit Ruben Amorim. Yeah, absolutely. I think Ruben Amorim is probably the one under the most pressure going into a brand new Premier League season.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one, and we'll see how it goes on. Stats, I let you go and finish your lunch before you go back to work. Massive thanks as always for joining me, mate. I will knock Stats out, and I'm going to hang on a few minutes later, just have a quick chat with everyone and go through some of the questions. So Stats, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers. See you later, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Stats will be joining us again for the previews this season as well. We've got some updates as well. And we'll possibly be doing something in Leeds early July together as well. We'll can't say an awful lot about that just yet, but keep an eye on that and we'll give you some information. If you've got any questions, stick them in the chat. I've got a couple to run through real quick that I'll fire off. Clive's asking, do we think that Pascal Stroud could play left back again if we don't get a dedicated left back? I think it's a really interesting question. I don't see him playing left back, Clive. But if you look at Jakub Bial's history at Udinese, he tends to play central in a 3. If Leeds are trying to get more defensive minded, I don't think managers change their systems that often. They don't tend to normally do it. A manager who has a system like Farke tends to stick with that system for as long as they can because they spent their entire careers coaching that and refining it. But maybe you could see him as an option of a back 3. The one big thing for me is Jakub Bial is a right-footed centre half, but does predominantly when he's not playing central, plays on the left. But you might see a slight change there, but it is above anything else. It's increased competition in those positions as well, which we need. We didn't have it last year. We had Ethan Ampadu dropping back in anytime with an injury. Max Ferber's leaving. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Nick's asking about any news on a new goalkeeper. Nothing. The last report I saw on goalkeepers were basically saying that Leeds weren't actively engaged with anybody imminently. As much as I'd like Jordi Petrovic, that's been ruled out as an option. The player's not interested necessarily right now in coming to Leeds, and he's not said to be a player on Leeds shortlist. But Leeds are said to be weighing up the right option and will make a move when the right player becomes available. So it is something they're looking at, but I don't think it's a priority position for them right now. Whether we believe it's a priority or not, Leeds clearly feel they've got a little bit more time with that one to keep an eye on. And then Tommy's saying Leeds miles off Brentford if Brentford go up, not down the table. I think it's one to watch, Tommy. I think an overhaul of that size. Keith Andrews talks a really good game. We've heard him on commentary. Anyone who's based in Ireland here, he's been involved in the Ireland setup as well. He's not a bad coach. He's a very good coach. Lee Carsley, also a very good coach and very highly rated coach. Didn't necessarily work that well when he stepped into the big management role with England. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Jay Racer saying Keith Andrews will be a downgrade from Jesse Marsh. I think he's slightly more technical than Jesse Marsh, and he's definitely not as arrogant as Jesse. There's a little bit of it there, but it'd be an interesting one to keep an eye on. And then Danny Talksport saying, don't think we get a goalkeeper till late in the window. I think it could be one where you're seeing a couple of keepers trying to see where they fit in the pecking order at their clubs, and then maybe make a move at a further point down the line. But yeah, it is an interesting one. And I would agree with Stuart. I wouldn't write the Petrovic one off just yet, although Strasbourg are said to be very interested in making his loan move from Chelsea last year, a permanent one. And bearing in mind, they're both owned by the Blue Co group as well. It's a multi-club model type situation there as well, or slightly not, similar to the Rangers Leeds one, I suppose, where it's not a multi-club model, but there are crossovers and interest there as well. For those who were asking about the Luis Sinistera one, I never got a chance to cover it with stats. He was injured last year between the end of October and the beginning of February, and then he was injured again between the middle of March and the middle of May. And his total season numbers were he started 1 game last season for Bournemouth, and the season before that he started 7 games for Bournemouth. So we got 25 million for a player who's started 8 games in 2 seasons. It's an interesting one. Folks, we'll wrap it up there. Massive thanks as always for checking out the live stream for today. A little bit earlier than normal. The news is available on the channel as well for today. Some conflicting reports on the Nikola Krstić transfer. Can't say his name. Took me ages this morning to say it. But there are some conflicting reports on that as well. Marzio and Sky Italia saying Leeds are in negotiations or have at least got some significant interest in him. Joe Donoghue at Yorkshire Post is saying not the case. Leeds haven't inquired. Then there is the other one around Siddiqui, I believe, where Leeds have, according to Sasha Tavaleri, Leeds have made a bid, or Diarra, they've made a bid. I think it's Siddiqui. And according to Joe Donoghue, Leeds haven't made a bid. So Joe Donoghue is our man to tell us what hasn't happened or isn't happening. And we're trying to wait whatever more credible information comes out. But I would have thought Marzio and Sky Italia were 2 relatively credible enough outlets, especially if Sky start going with stuff, it tends to be further on than the aggregate sites tend to pick up stuff. But it's an interesting one. We'll keep an eye on it over the next couple of days and weeks anyway. We'll be back in the morning for more Leeds news. Keep an eye out for that. We'll also put some non-transfer stuff in tomorrow as well, because there is some small bits floating around, but the transfers are dominating everything right now. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great afternoon, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me. See you then. Bye.